So what we're doing is changing over a Thetford cassette toilet to a Ogo composting toilet, and we're doing it on a conversion on a Caravan XC5. Now, the removal of the Thetford toilet was fairly easy. It was 12 screws and the whole thing just slid out in one piece. Very simple to remove. Okay, so that's a removed system, the Thetford system. As I said, very easy to get out, no great drama. And I'll just slip inside and show you what it looks like in there. Alright, so this is what's left now. So we've got the port to the outside, so obviously that goes outside the caravan. We've got, strangely enough, we've got two wires for power and 2 wires for earth, which we might be able to utilise. Being old and retired and having too much time on our hands, we might use that. One of the things we're thinking about with the composting toilet is to actually have a bidet spray on the side of it. We're going to plumb ours directly into the grey water tank, so it'll drain, the urine part of it will drain directly into the grey water tank, and the composting will stay as it is. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is to position the toilet, and being old and retired and having too much time on my hand, I'll decide to make it really complicated. So what we've got here is the access port to the back of where the cassette system went. I've positioned the toilet here, so normally I suppose you could just push the Ogo hard up against the wall or put a plate over the top of this, but I've got a water line here, so that's what I'm going to attempt to put my bidet spray into. Here's my positive and negative power outlet. So what I've decided to do is add about 100 ml in here, and get a piece of plastic fabricated at the local plastic fabricators, and just bring that out and around in here, and I'll put a cover over the top of it, and that'll give me about 100 ml or 150 ml of space in the back of there, so that locker can still be utilised, and we can store the core blocks in there or whatever it happens to be. Okay, so continuing on with the conversion of the Caravan XC5, putting the composting toilet in the Ogo. What I've decided to do is put a backing piece on here. If you just have a look here, you can see that when you pull out the Thetford toilet, you end up with this box at the back here. And there's two ways you can do this. You can cover over the box, but you do have some wires coming out here, your power wire and your water for the Thetford for the flush system. You can either push the toilet hard up against that, put a sheet at the back of it. And the problem with that is that when you do that, the toilet sits right up hard up against the wall there, and it's actually not particularly comfortable. So me, I would or I've decided to actually step it out about 115 mil, 120 millimeters. So I'll just show you what I've done there. I've had the local plastic fabricator make up a box for me, and I've glued on some angle brackets onto the back here, and I've used the Pseudo T-Rex. You could use Sika. You could also use silicone, but silicone doesn't actually have as good a holding power as the polyurethanes. So I'll just show you how that's going to end up. Right, so that is how it will look. Well, that's not exactly centered properly yet, but anyway. But so I've chosen that way for two reasons. One is it actually looks factory. You'll notice that there's an angle on the back of here. It's sloping back at about 30 degrees. That then gives you a bit more angle on your toilet seat, and the other advantage is that behind here you now have a storage locker for whatever you want to use it, and also covers up your wires and your water inlet. So the next job now is to actually fix that to the wall. And you've got the 4 brackets that I've glued in there, but the problem you've got is you've only got 150 mil or so, and you're trying to work backwards with your screws. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in from the outside, and I'm going to mark where the holes are in the brackets. I'm going to pull this out again, pre-drill them, and then I will use you can either use a stubby screwdriver or whatever you can to get in there and fix that back to the wall. Okay, so this is the box we've installed in here, and you can see, if I can find them there, that's the brackets that I've glued on. Now these ones that are up in here, up the top here, they're the ones that are going to be a little bit difficult to get to, because you've only got this much space, about 150 mil, something like that, or 110 mil. So you can use a stubby screwdriver, or alternatively, if you're really lucky, you can use one of these things, angle drill, and that's what I'm going to be using to screw into here. So this is what it looks like on the inside. And you notice that put these things on here around the edge. This is just 25 by 25 plastic mold. You can get it from any hardware store. But the problem I found is that the back of the Ogo is not plumb to the wall in the caravan, or the floor is not square to the wall, or the caravan wall is leaning, or a combination of all three. But the net result is there's a gap along the top here. Now, once I've drilled this hole here, which is your vent pipe, and put the power wire in through here as well, I'll show you how that fits up against the wall. So now, I'll show you this stuff here. I've just put this rubber seal around the 50 mil hole, 54 mil hole for the vent pipe. That's your vent pipe there. Now that has got to go down here on this pipe that's on the Ogo. Now I've already connected the power in, so the plan is I'm going to take this over underneath here, put the vent pipe into here, and then I'm going to zip tie the power wire to underneath the vent pipe. So this is the final connection. You can see I've connected the vent hose and the power wire, and they're going to go through my box that I've made, the plastic box. You can see the moulding, the 25 by 25 moulding, and I've scribed it into the back of the toilet. This is probably only standing out about, it's probably only out about 10-12 millimeters at the best. Anyway, we'll push it in, and then we'll screw it down, and it'll be almost job done. We'll go outside and fix up the vent from the outside. Alright, so now I've connected and pushed it through, and pushed the pipe through, and pushed the toilet hard up against this. You can see my scribing work is not overly brilliant, but anyway, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to run a bit of bathroom or sanitary grade white silicone, and that'll give it a nice area. It'll be easily cleaned, there won't be any rubbish there. You'll see that down the sides there I've got the 25 to 25 has taken up that space, and it's all basically about keeping it clean. So now I'm just going to fix up this gap here. So what I've done is I've taped it so that I get a minimal amount of sealant over everything. So I'm only going to try to run a bead of around about 3 millimeters, 2-3 millimeters at most. So I've put the silicone in there now, and I'll just dip my finger into some turpentine and just spread it out so it smooths it out nice and neatly, and we'll pull the tape off and see how we go. So that's come up pretty well, I think. Can't really tell that there was a gap there, and I think we'll call that a success, and we'll give the whole lot a bit of a clean down, and then that's basically it, apart from connecting up the electrical. So this is the two power wires, and I'm just checking them. So this is your, as you see there, we've got 12.9 volts. I can hold it steady on there. There we go. 12.9 volts there. So basically it's just a matter of connecting up your power wire from your from the OGO to your power wires from here. Obviously red to red, black to black. But what I've decided to do is actually put a switch in there so I can switch the OGO off. And the reason I'm thinking of this is the OGO should be on all the time, but if you're not using the caravan, you can switch switch it off. It's just another way of sort of protecting the battery in the caravan. All right, so this is where the pipe comes through, and you can see the pipe and the water pipe there. I've just taped that back, and I've put a stopcock on it there. I was going to run that through the side panel here and put in a bidet spray, but apparently she who must be obeyed doesn't like that idea, so right now it's just being taped up against the side there. So basically we end up with this outside here, and if you notice it here, I've actually put a plumbing fitting onto here and put it at 90 degrees to the other end, to the 90 degrees for the pipe to go into. The reason for this is you want to be able to lay this flap down so you can get in there. And this is where I intend to store the coir bricks and anything else I need to be able to put in there. It's quite a usable bit of space, so hopefully that'll work well. So this is a Kedron caravan. The other option you've got is on here is what they call 12 volt mains power, and you can switch your OGO off from there. But the downside of that is when you do that, everything goes out. So your the caravan's connected to 240 at the moment, but everything that runs on 12 volt is now out. So I think I'll put a switch in there. So we've got the OGO in now, so all I've got to do basically is screw it into position. Now what I've done here is, there's 4 holes here for your screws, there and there, sorry. And you'll notice that I've cut a hole into here, and that's for the drain for the to bypass going into the bottle. I'm not doing that at this stage. I've just made provision for the hole there. Eventually I will use this and plumb this the drain for the fluids to go straight into the grey water tank. Right, so that's all screwed in, so now all we've got to do is put the bucket back in. That's it. Make sure that's locked down properly, and then we're going to put the urine tank back in. Now, I noticed on this thing that if you want to transport the empty the tank, you basically got to pull this out, and then you've got to search around and find the lid that they provide for you, and then take it out and empty it. Now what I intend to do is I'm going to put a little captive cable on this and attach it here so that it's always attached to this this thing. I mean, you don't use the cap now, you only use it when you're transporting. It would be handy not to have to be able to, it would be handy to be able to find it, because if you lose the cap it would be a pain in the proverbial. So basically we've finished now. So this is the in the compartment itself. You can see that the hose or the vent pipe slips down very easily. It folds up nice and neatly inside there. Your wires are a bit ugly, but they're all tucked up out of the way up there, and they go up to a switch up there. And in here, I've just got some core blocks in there at the moment. So this is basically the finished product. You can see I've got a little switch up on the top here, and so very quiet. I had to actually hunt around to make sure that it was on and going, but a very quiet fan that sucks out the back of that. But that's just a little switch you get from Jayco, $4 or $5. Very easy. Three pins on the bottom of it. The central pin is your power, your top one is your earth, and your neutral is the other one on the other side. So white, green, and red for power, obviously. And that's it, basically, all done. So excuse my ums and ahs and everything through this. Being a mere man, I can only do one thing at a time well, and that's usually carpentry sort of stuff, but actually speaking is another thing again. Cheers.